Dislike. He's coming for you.
I see you.
I can't. My arms are not long enough to reach him.
Oh, got up there.
Good job.
Look at you, Albus.
By yourself.
Hi, welcome back. We're the Book Mavens. I'm Rachel. This is Amanda. And we are concluding the Farseer Trilogy today with Book 3, The Assassin's Quest. And we're going to sum this one up for you and go over some basic things that we liked, disliked about this book, and I think to sum up the entire trilogy and our overall thoughts and give our rating.
All right, so Assassin's Quest. You can see this beautiful Fitz is aging on the covers. Mm-hmm. But in Assassin's Quest, it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a quest book. So there's two. You could break the quest into really two chunks. There's he's dead too. He's gonna go look for Verity, and then there's on the way to Verity, he meets up with the characters that we know to Verity. Like he does a lot of personal stuff until he gets to the mountains, and then from mountains to the conclusion is him with the characters we know back to the plots from earlier books. If you're reading along with us, now would be the time to stop if you haven't finished. And let's just make a note about this book compared to the other ones. This book is dense. I mean, and let me tell you, you look at it. Okay, you look at these books. Okay? This is book 1. This is book 2. Right? And then this is book 3. Now, here's the misleading part. Yes, 3 does look longer than book 2.
But just by a
little bit, right? No. The print is teeny tiny and
super cramped all the way.
Very narrow margins. This book was much longer than the others. So if you are pacing yourself, buckle up, Buttercup, because this one is much longer than the others. So now would be the time to pause because now we're going to talk about spoilers. They left off. Fitz, in the end of the book, second book,
has died.
Yeah, and he moved his soul into a wolf.
So he and Night Eyes are sharing a consciousness within Night Eyes' body.
Burrick is able to basically lure his spirit back into his body.
I like Burrick teaching Fitz to be human again, which was fascinating. And with that, you also get Burrick's backstory in terms of him with the wit and how he had bonded to a stallion. Okay, so Burrick tells Fitz about his struggles with the wit, and I think that was nice to get a little bit more backstory about Burrick, and why he pledged himself to chivalry and why that bond is so close. That chivalry really helped make him a man, and I think he valued that.
The writing on how, it's the thought process, because it's so interesting how she does it. She does it where it's almost like Fitz has become two people. There's Fitz who was a wolf, and then there's Fitz who remembers, and then there's the Fitz that we've known in all these books. And he keeps talking about I want to go outside. I don't want to think about that anymore because
well, that's very trauma related.
Right.
His PTSD from being tortured, everything that kind of tied him to his humanity has just been totally wrecked, and so he has distanced himself completely from that trauma. So there's a lot of really interesting recovery, and I think that's something that explored throughout the whole book is Fitz's relationship with fear and how he processes fear and when he's able to conquer fear and when it immobilizes him. So there's a lot of very interesting and really just well written explanations of trauma. I mean, Fitz experiences tremendous trauma, and it's heartbreaking. Fitz takes a lot of punches.
But they meet as they're going on their way to kill Regal. He meets a man and his wife, and it gives you more backstory on the wit. Only just a little taste, though.
A little
bit. Because he keeps hearing it. They called it the old Old blood.
Old blood.
Old blood. They said the wit is what other people call it. People who are...
To make it distasteful.
Yeah, to make it distasteful. People who are trained in it, we call it the old blood. And he indicated that, like, that this man and his wife had been raised by their parents to understand the bond. They had actively sought a bond animal. Like, that it was part of their rite of passage. And so he offers to teach Fitz a lot of skills, like how to keep him and the wolf's communication private to everybody else, how to, like, just almost practical use of the wit, where to this point he's largely just been figuring out it on. So that dynamic was very, very interesting, and I honestly really hope that these characters come back, because they do play a role later, like that their bond animals are able to communicate with other bond animals, and to pass messages, which I found very fascinating to me. Let's talk about our girl Kittering. Okay. She really disappoints me there in the middle. And then she comes around in the end.
Girl's in a hard place. You have somebody who's raised in the mountains as this idea of being a sacrifice for your people.
Right.
That's what she's done. So her way of self-sacrificing was to have an heir, and the heir doesn't make it. So this baby dies. And so she feels that she has failed in providing the correct sacrifice for these people to be able to live. And so I understand her depression, because she's somebody who's incredibly depressed. And when you're in a depressed state, having empathy for others around you is very difficult as well. So when Fitz is given this challenge that he's going to have to step in and give over he and Molly's child that Molly has had
and
separately hidden with Burke, who's taking care of Molly and this little girl, that now he is going to have to bring up his daughter and give her to Kittering, and Kittering will raise her as the heir.
It's not that I disagree about her, why she feels the way she does, and her feeling like she's failed at this task that she set herself. I don't agree with their idea that Fitz owes this to them, and this idea that, like, that passing it off as Verity's child instead of his, and she's gonna raise it, and the mom, which would be Molly, is just gonna be okay with it.
Yeah,
no, she ain't. Always upset at Fitz for not doing what they think he should have done, like not making the right decision or not doing the right thing, but they never give him all the information. So he's operating on what he has, and then they get upset when he doesn't operate on their level, the way they wanted them to. It's just jumped to, we're going to take over your child's life, and I was like, oh, whoa.
Well, I mean, I think they also look at it as this is an opportunity for your child to be highly educated, to be raised as a princess, and that could be vastly appealing to people who are living on the edge and don't have anything. It's all about the mindset that Kittering has versus everyone else, being raised as a sacrifice, that this is just what you do. You sacrifice for the betterment of everyone. And so she just looks at this as one child that could solve a multitude of problems and potentially save lives and make lives better for people all across the six duchies.
I don't like it when...
The ultimate sacrifice.
I don't like it when she's deciding that other people will make that ultimate sacrifice. Like, because that's not her. I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like,
I mean,
Molly is the one who would get. Molly is the one who's going to be giving up a child, and she's going to pretend that it's hers. Like, I just don't like, and even some stuff she says to Fitz as they go along, like, you know, once she joins the quest. And to be fair, she's not the only one who does it. Chade says it. There's a character, Kettle. She'll say, you know, this just like, if you want to make a sacrifice, and even if you want to convince somebody else to make that ultimate sacrifice for the kingdom, like, this just assumption that, and making decisions to force other people to do that, I don't love that.
But I think it's also tied to the prophecies with him being the catalyst, that everything surrounding him is for great change, positive and negative. So anything attached to him, I think people feel it's almost like it's public. It's to be used, that he is just this chess piece that's going to
Well, and
making or breaking a game. And
yeah, but they treat him like a piece, but then they don't. Isn't it with the Fool? He has that out. He's like, or maybe it's Kettle. It's Kettle or the Fool where Fitz basically has it out. He's like, if you know all this stuff, then tell me what Kettle. It is that I'm supposed to do. So and Kettle's like, I can't because I might say the wrong thing and then it could change the whole course of history. He is so frustrated with her.
So you could just sit there and be pissy at me when I make the wrong decision.
Right, and he's
fine.
Like,
yeah.
He's like, I don't know what prophecy you're talking about, woman. Like,
it's tough.
Kettle's hilarious.
Yeah.
So we find Verity. Okay. They get to this valley, and there's all these dragons, and they think they're real for a second, but except they're made of stone. And then we find Verity, and Verity is building a dragon. Okay, we were completely and totally wrong about the Elderlings. Also...
Were we? I don't really know.
Listen, way to play the cards close to the vest, Robin Hobb. I still don't... I'm 3 books in to the realm of the Elderling series, and I'm like, who?
The Elderlings are... I do not fully grasp...
Yeah, I don't get it.
The Elderling concept. I don't understand who could have made the first dragon.
Uh-huh.
The coteries in terms of pouring life force into them. I'm at a loss in terms of this, but I do feel now that it is connected to the life ship idea too, which
that's coming.
We'll get into that. And
so the dragons are the Elderlings.
But I don't understand how that's possible.
Well, this is what Verity says. Verity says the dragons are the Elderlings. And that even King Humble, King Humble, who originally in the stories, like this is what set them on this trail to go get the Elderling help.
But he had met the Elderlings.
He'd met them and got their help to drive back the raiders, right? Mm-hmm. Like all this time ago. One of the dragons is King Humble.
With his coterie.
So you carve... So the leader, whether that's a king or just the leader of the coterie, you carve the dragon out of stone. And as you do that...
It's a special black stone.
Yes, special stone.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
You pour, using the skill, you pour yourself into the dragon. Your memories, your emotions, and then until basically you're just like a husk. You're forged, if you will. Okay, because listen, Night Eye says that. When Fitz is like got his hand on a dragon. He's got his hand on a dragon. He's like giving it all his bad memories, like of being tortured and blah blah blah. And the Night Eyes comes and he says, "That's enough. Stop it." And he growls at the dragon and like gets its like, the skilling to stop. And he goes, "I don't want to be bonded to a forged one." It's a good line, guys. But anyway, so Verity is basically pouring himself into this dragon, and you have to reach some kind of threshold of...
But you can only do it with your coterie. Like, you yourself isn't enough.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point, is like you and yourself is not enough. So what would happen is the leader with their coteries, the whole coterie would be in there. So like these people kind of become this dragon, and it's directed by, in our case, Verity. Right, the leader's kind of the head, but everybody's life energy goes into it till it reaches enough. So that's where Kettle comes in, mm-hmm. and she joins, and she's pouring all of her skill into it, and she's very powerful. She's powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, she had been skill blocked, and then they let her free.
Yeah, you learn a lot of stuff about skill. It's about forgiveness, guys, and I'm going to leave that there. Mm-hmm. But there are other dragons in this field.
Oh my goodness!
Tell them about your favorite dragon,
Rachel.
Y'all. Okay. Get ready.
The dragons were not... This was not it for me. So many other things are perfection. And Robin Hobb's character development, awesome. Even though her magic system is somewhat simplified, you can see it gets a little bit more complex. And I know it will later on in the Elderlings whole series. But... she lost me with the dragons. I could not get behind that. Specifically with this one dragon that the Fool takes a special interest in. There's an unfinished dragon. Now, this dragon's a little different because it's not just a dragon. There is a girl carved on top of the dragon. And the story behind this is that this was one girl in her coterie, and she tried to carve herself on the dragon to preserve a sense of herself, that she would pour herself directly into the girl while her coterie filled up the dragon. So this girl is carved on the dragon. Now, the fool becomes obsessed with this. He starts carving her out, literally called Girl on a Dragon. That is how the fool refers to this. Now, the whole time they're carving it out, they keep getting feelings that this girl is suffering on top of the dragon as a separate entity, right? So when the dragon comes to life, well...
Sorry, there was like a little floating bit of Albus's fur.
No, I'm just trying to think of how to describe this, because nothing creeped me out more than Girl on a Dragon.
She was very upset.
I was just so disturbed. So Girl on a Dragon's there, attached to the actual dragon, as like, they described it as just like another appendage. So there's just this girl flesh attached to the dragon.
I read it more like she was still stoned.
She wasn't stoned because she moves. Like they said that she's flesh.
But I thought more like a moving
empty
statue.
Face.
You know,
like an empty face.
Like
and
Harry Potter 2, the chess pieces.
No.
That's how I visualed it. And maybe I just misread.
Stuck on the dragon. And not an actual person. This girl's soul doesn't inhabit that girl figure. It's just like an elbow sitting on top of the dragon. But like, the fool ends up riding Girl on a Dragon. That's how this specific dragon is referenced. And, like, she just puts down her arm, but I'm just imagining just, like, the total, like, dead face. Yes. And just leaning down and helping the fool on. So he holds on to the Girl on a Dragon flying around. And it's just using his wit and, blood.
Wit and blood. Guys, it was... That's simple.
So he wakes up that whole field of dragons.
Too late, after we've already lost Verity.
Yes, Verity becomes...
a dragon.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's kind of how they round this whole story out. So
that was fun.
Y'all, at the end, we got to talk about how Regal ends.
Oh, I can understand people who really wanted that personal, like, to have Fitz really have his way with Regal, but I loved how Rob and Hobb handled Regal. I do, and with Fitz coming in, he doesn't kill Regal, even though Regal has just totally wrecked his life multiple times. That just to do what chivalry did to Galen and put this extreme fanatical loyalty to Verity and to the kingdom doesn't last very long, because the Weasel gets him in the end.
The Weasel gets him in the end, guys. The animals
tears him up.
The real heroes.
They really are.
That's why I love it so much.
And that is done because Regal had been targeting people with the wit. And so this Weasel's bonded human had been executed, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And so that Weasel had this last message to go in, and he was tailing and hiding, I think, in all of Regal's stuff until there was an opportunity, and he took him out and just tore him up. And I was okay with Fitz not getting it. I actually think it made more sense not to have Fitz do that, just because of his assassin label and all of his growth. I love that he let him live. But then a Weasel takes him out. I think that's found just perfect.
Because he was skill printed, that fanatical loyalty that got pressed on him. I think it was. I feel like it was Fitz's contribution to the aftermath, because with Regal dead is different than Regal very publicly sowing seeds of, I was so wrong. I'm gonna throw all my support behind Kittering, and I just feel like politically that was such a stronger move than Regal just dying. Okay.
And we initially kind of figured that these books would run through like a decade of his life each, based on the cover art. The cover art is not very representational of his age. I would consider, like, before the epilogue of this book, that Fitz is maybe 18, 19. It's not a lot of time. And so even by the end, when we get the epilogue, where it's kind of him writing about 6 years into the future. So you're looking at a guy who's only in his mid-20s, who has lived this life of tremendous tragedy and very few real momentous, uplifting events. So I'm hoping to get more with the later trilogies. with Fitz
I
getting
think
a little
there's,
bit more
I think you're right. There's
closure.
going to be far less time moving between books than we originally thought.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our ratings. I feel like you go to a really great restaurant, but there's no substitutions and there's no customization.
It's a planned menu.
Mm-hmm. It's a planned menu. And some of the things you really, really love and you're really, really excited about. And some of the things, not even just that you're not excited about them, but they're like things that you don't like. I don't like salad. I own it. Don't come for me in the comments. I'm sorry. I don't like salad. But so for me, when there's a planned meal, the salad is fast and first. Let's get it over with to get on to other things that I'm excited about. The other parts you really, really love. And the meal as a whole, you thoroughly enjoy, even though there were individual parts that maybe were not what you would have chosen or would have chosen for yourself.
Yeah, I reevaluated, like, especially talking about, like, a planned menu. Everything about the beginning of the book, like, if we want to look at the beginning of the book being the appetizer, was great. The middle part, the build-up, great, complex. So the dinner menu, even all of my sides, everything's working until we get to the end. The dragons. D for dessert. So I would say, so I have just had this beautiful meal. Everything is great, and I'm loving it. And then somebody gives me a big piece of coconut cake with shaved candied coconut on it. I hate shaved candied coconut with a passion. So it would be like having all of these delicious things and one thing that I just found just not to my taste. It's like that. It's not that it's even bad. It's just something that I don't enjoy right at eating. The end for you. It is. Well, I mean, because all of the dragon stuff happens at the tail end of the book. So,
see, and for me, it's that multiple course. I
just
liked the appetizer.
Thing.
It was the salad course in the second book. I got so frustrated by it. And then for me the meal was complex. I like the main, but some of the sides maybe were not my cup of tea. And then I liked dessert. Dessert was
did not like the dragons.
Dessert was fine.
I didn't. I was fine with Verity becoming a dragon, the girl on a dragon. The fact of the matter is like everything that happened in terms of building a dragon, it all felt very unnecessary to me. If it just ended up being where he just needed the wit and blood to wake up all the dragons, a lot of the subplot involving Verity carving a dragon seems superfluous and unnecessary.
Yeah.
I would have maybe and it's interesting because Hobb doesn't write a ton of action, but the action she does write is very good and very detailed. I would have liked to see more of, I guess, maybe more of an attack, and Buckkeep, we could have had a really great action sequence maybe.
Yeah, basically the dragons just come and clean it all up and that's it.
And that's it. But it doesn't solve any problem. There's still the forged one that's still going to be a problem. So to me, this trilogy, everything we said about this, if this was it and there weren't more books.
Okay.
That
if this was the only trilogy, I'd be honestly probably a little bit disappointed just because some elements, which I think is just how she's going to tie it together, because like some elements are very developed and finished and some are very teased out and still not there. And so
which is great writing.
Right. I absolutely can see why Robin Hobb is considered a standard in any genre, really, but why in the fantasy genre she's considered a standard, because she is an excellent storyteller. And you know what? That's maybe more realistic, is where there are things that happen that you don't love and don't like, and that's that's more real, true to life and history, certainly. But so that's our rating is it's a planned menu where you like some things and some things you don't. So if you've read it or you were reading along with us, how would you rate this? What compared to food for us?
The next trilogy we'll be starting in our realm of the Elderlings is the Live Ship Trilogy. This is the first one, Ship of Magic. Please feel free to subscribe and read along with us, and we will see you next time.
Bye. And this is the vibe this is giving me, like these ships on here.
Let me tell you about these ships real quick.
I'm getting like a classic piratey vibe.
So they like start talking and stuff.